Welcome back to DuckmanCycles and VW Garage. I'm your host, the Duckman. We're back today with Ruby, my 1968 Volkswagen Beetle, who behind me here, we were trying to work on some carburetor linkage problems and air cleaners, the new air cleaners I tried to fit on. Unfortunately, they didn't fit under the rear lip that constitutes the bottom of the trunk. Actually, we discovered the trunk had been crushed. Somebody put way too much weight in it at some point, and I had to stretch the actual opening for the engine opening up. And in order to do that, I did a bunch of hooking and lifting and pulling and twisting, and I guess a summary of it is I pretty much lifted the car by its labia, and it had about the same reaction that it would if you did that to a certain person. Anyway, she screamed bloody murder, but I managed to get her to bend into the proper position and got her to fit to my needs, I guess is the best way to put it. Everything's coming together on this car. I'm going to show you in just a second. Here we're going to open up this hatch. I got to go find some tools and dig some stuff up. I got shit thrown around everywhere. Before we get to that point, I want to, of course, ask you to like this video. You know, click that thumbs up. It's really important to me. Post a comment down below. Ask a question. Go ahead and click the subscribe button, and don't forget to pluck the little dingle belly next to it. That way you get updates every time I upload a video. Don't forget, check out DuckmanCycles and VW Garage over on the Facebook page, and if you would like to email me, DuckmanCycles@duckshit.net. Stick around. We got a lot of things to work on, and hopefully we get this thing running today because I'd like to take it out tonight. Looks like it might rain. Maybe I won't take it out tonight, but thanks again, guys. What I've done is I connected a throttle return spring in here because I did have some problems with the throttle cable. It kind of comes up over the transmission bell housing there, and it kind of has a little bit of spring tension on it. It wants to flip it upwards, which is of course pulling on that throttle cable. So I put a spring on the back side here, which helps to return the throttle back to the idle position. And that seems to do a pretty good job, and it worked on the old carburetor before. Yeah, it worked on the old linkages before, and it appears to be returning them back to idle here just fine. Now, my idle position screws are both in exactly the same position that they were before I even took anything apart, so it should still idle at the same speed. My low-speed mixture screws are easy to get to. The right side was always easy because there's a big opening void over here. And the left side is now facing to the right. So I can actually get in here and make the adjustment. The oil cooler is kind of blocking it a little bit. That's something I didn't see that was going to be a problem. But the fact is, right now I can get a visual. I can actually look right down in there and I can see the screw. So it's real easy to see how much I'm turning, even if I can only get 2 fingertips on it. At least I don't need 2 wrists to bend my arm around backwards to get around the back side of it to make that happen. This is looking good. This is looking good. I don't see any reason right now that this shouldn't start up. None at all. Next step on the list is not only to make it start, but then I have to go ahead and get these carburetors synced. And this is the tool that you use to do it. This is your little vacuum tool. Some people call it the snail. But what you do is you put it on one carburetor and you get your idle measurement. Whatever the number is here, you go to the other side and you make sure it's a match on the other side. Now technically you're supposed to do this with the throttle linkage disconnected. I've done it with it connected before. As long as you know what you're doing and you're familiar with how the adjustments work, you can usually get away with that. I might disconnect it temporarily and just see if that makes any difference for me. But as I said, the idle screws are already where they should be. So if the idle is not in sync for some reason, it's got to do with the linkage and not the screw positions. Okay, now this little adapter that I made here, I turned this on my lathe. This is a solution to another problem that came up. The reason I made this is the top of the carburetors here are now wrapped with the air cleaner. Previously, the air cleaners would just pop right off. They were just rubber like that. And I could take a rubber boot that I made. Well, it actually wasn't rubber, it was made from Gorilla Tape. I put the sticky side in and double layered it and wrapped it around the carburetor for exactly the right size and then fit it around the snail here. And I could just slide it over that carburetor and get an accurate reading every time. The problem is now I can't do that anymore because they're wrapped. And the metal bottom portion of the air cleaner here actually has an irregular shape around it, so I can't just wrap it in tape anymore. It's no longer going to be a proper solution. So I turned this down on a lathe and I got the exact measurements so that way it fits down inside of there just like that. Perfect fit. Perfect fit. It's brilliant having a lathe, I gotta admit. I mean, I'm no A-Bomb 79, but you know, I think I do okay for when I need a little something like this. It's not a moving part, but it certainly gets the job done for something like this. Anyways, now I can take the snail and put it down into that just like so. So now I can get a proper measurement on it. It's nice that it's on a 45-degree angle because it avoids the lip that's over here and tips it off the other way. And then of course, once I get done over here, I can lift it right out and put it in on this side and get a measurement over there. No problem. That's not going to be too hard. Now, there's no reason this thing shouldn't start right now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the ignition and look for fuel leaks. Make sure all my fuel lines are nice and tight. If everything's good, we're going to try to fire it up and we're going to see what happens. And you guys get to come along for the ride. Here goes nothing. All right, we got our power on here. I'm hearing the floats filling up. Smell gas, but I don't see any. No, I'm not seeing any fuel dripping. No, I think we're good in that department. I smelled gas only for a moment, but I think it was just the bowls in the carburetor purging whatever vapor was in there. Okay, let's go ahead and see if she starts. Now my battery's a little bit weak, so I hope it does the trick. We're about to find out. Nope, did not start for some reason. Didn't even sputter, nothing. Got absolutely zero out of it. Okay, I think I'm going to have to hook my battery charger up because it was cranking over okay at first, but just before I let go of the key, it started to slow down. All right, be back in a minute. Okay, we've got that battery charger hooked up. So I figured now, but one thing that I forgot to check that I didn't before is I probably should go inside and put a brick on the gas pedal and look down inside the throats of these carburetors and make sure that the throttle opens all the way. That's kind of important because I drove this car for almost a year with the old throttle linkage on there, which had all mismatched parts on it, and I always just thought that I had a slow old Volkswagen, didn't realize that it wasn't opening up the throttles to but maybe halfway to 3/4 position. So the thing was just, it was slow. It was really slow. And after I fixed that, suddenly the thing started to take off and become one of the faster 1600 cars here in town. Yeah, we're going to drop a brick down on the pedal, and we're going to look down inside the throttle bodies here and make sure that that butterfly opens all the way. Alright, see what we got. We got a brick in there on the pedal. And, yep, we are wide open. Also wide open. Good to go. One of the things they do tell you in the manuals is to not set your throttle cable as tight as it can go. In other words, when your pedal is to the floor, you don't want to have the throttle cable pulled tight. In other words, you don't want the throttles in the absolute widest position. You want it about 99%. And the reason has nothing to do with performance, but it has everything to do with longevity of your throttle cable. So if you tighten your throttle cable too much and you find yourself flooring it, you're trying to stretch that cable, and eventually you're going to stress it, and boink, it's going to break. So right now with the pedal to the floor with the brick on it, what you do is you open up the throttle linkage here as wide as you can get it by hand, and you let that cable fall lazy into its own position. Helps if I can find my 8mm wrench, which I thought was in here. There it is. Oh, this can be quite tricky. Meanwhile, I'm flooding the shit out of the car because I'm pumping the crap out of the throttle here by accident. Okay. That should get our throttle cable in the correct position. Let us go ahead and try to fire this thing up one more time. Return spring on, but it fired up pretty easily. Of course, I flooded it. Even though it's cold, it's still running pretty even. Yeah, I think that works pretty well. Okay, we'll let it warm up. We'll be back in just a minute. Okay, it seems like it's idling pretty good to me. So let's see what our measurement is here. Now this is got a scale on it, you can see. And this thing, when it was idling before, it used to be between about 9 and 11, which is the mark before the 10 and the one after the 10. Somewhere in that range is usually what works best for me. Now that doesn't mean it's going to be the same. It doesn't mean it's going to be the same for you. Even if you have the same tool and the same carburetors and the same car, and you're even at the same elevation. You can't always go by that, but I'm just remembering what I did before, and we're going to see if we're anywhere near that, because of course we didn't change any of the settings on the carburetor. Now it looks like it's actually at about 8. Let's check this side. About 8 1/4. No, it's 8. It's 8. One more time over here. That one's actually a little low. Now, as I said before, you're supposed to do this with the linkage off. But if I pull on this linkage, it's not making the idle speed go any lower, which tells me that the linkage is not exerting any pressure on the throttle bodies right now. Bring this one up just a little bit. I don't know if you can hear it, but the idle speed came up just a hair. Alright, we got about 8 1/4 now. And we got 8 1/4 over here. are now effectively balanced at idle. I'm not going to play with the mixture screws in that because I think that they're fine as they are. So what we need to do next is we got to find a comfortable throttle position to open these throttle bodies slightly, just enough to bring the RPMs up. You're going to want it the same on both sides. I'm thinking I could probably do it with a wrench. This throttle linkage is different than it used to be, but typically I used to just kind of wedge a wrench in there just to bring the RPMs up. Let me try to find a bigger wrench. Alright, the one I was using all along actually was just fine. I just had to prop it in a different way. But what we're looking to get is the RPMs up a little higher than idle. It doesn't really matter exactly what they are. It just needs to come up a little bit. So, get in here. And now we'll check. We're about 20, right at about 20. Over here, we're about 18. So this side, you've got to come in here and open up the linkage a little wider. Take that wrench back off. Sounds like we're still idling normally. In fact, it's not a bad idea to check this one more time. Yep, we're still idling right about 9 on both sides. Alright, using our 10mm wrench, we want to come down here, we want to tighten up these nuts and bolts right here. Now this, well, I want to call it a strut, but it's actually like a bolt. One end is threaded standard, the other end is reverse threaded. So it's essentially a turnbuckle. If you turn it one way, it gets longer. If you turn it the other way, it gets shorter. And there's a nut on either end. You want to tighten those nuts in the proper order. Of course, one is reverse threaded. So whatever direction you turn to one, you have to turn the other one in the exact same direction to tighten it, because it's on the other end of the turnbuckle. That's the way they work. Alright, if you remember correctly, all of my gold ones were the ones that are reverse threaded. So on the top over here on the right, we have a gold one, so we got to turn it lefty. And the one on the bottom is right-hand threaded, so we're going to turn it the same way also, but because it's on the other end, it flips it, so therefore it's the same direction. Do the same on the left-hand side. right, I think we're good to go. Let's go ahead and put our air cleaners on, which is real simple. Just disconnect the distributor there. So now it's got no juice going into it, which of course stops me from frying my electronic ignition just the same. Okay, I'm gonna put these air cleaners on here. These are real simple. You just push the rubber cleaner right down into the upper top. There's a lip that it actually fits down into, and it does have a tendency to want to spread out wide, but that's not an issue because when we put this thing in, and I'll show you what we're going to do here, but you got to kind of swing it in that way, and then this side will compress against the base, and this side you can just push right in. So we'll come around this way, and in he goes. Now it's in. Now what I made here, I did this earlier off camera, I made those wing nuts studs that I was talking about. I took the studs and I welded the wing nuts to the tops of them. And I put the rubber washer that's supposed to be on here, as well as the lock washer that's supposed to go underneath the wing nut. So these suckers are ready to go on. So I would just put that right in there like so. And tighten him on down. We can't get to the back one yet because I actually have to drill a little hole through here in order to make that go in. So I'm just going to put the one on there now. Now based on the design of this, I could probably get away with just one. But when it comes to fasteners, you're always better to have two than one in case one of them does try to come loose. But that one's fastened on. And this side's going to go in kind of the same way. This one's a little bit more of a snug fit. There it is. Okay. Now in all the confusion here, I managed to lose my other set of wing nut studs that I had made. So we're going to run without them briefly. Because I think two ought to be enough to keep us together here. And that's it. Alright, put our ignition back together. Okay, first impression just pulling out of the driveway is it's like installing a short throw throttle on a motorcycle, a short twist throttle. It's or a 3/4 turn throttle or a 50% throttle. You know, on a motorcycle, it's just there's barely any throttle required to actuate the gas. So it makes it seem like the throttle response is much faster. It's kind of a nice feeling. The gas pedal's a little stiffer than it used to be. Probably because I lost some of the mechanical advantage by using a short throw throttle. But it's working good. I mean, even at small throttle positions, it's smooth, which tells me that the carburetors are very well balanced right now. So if they stay that way, then that means the throttle linkage is exactly what I was looking for. Wow. I gotta admit, this thing is, it's driving nice. It's driving really nice. I'm quite happy with this. This is going to be a good thing. Now just the test is to see if it actually does stay in sync. If it stays in sync, then it's proper. It's a proper linkage, and it does what it's supposed to do, and well, that's what I paid for. I'm actually at a loss of words. It's so good, and I'm so happy. Well, I want to take the car out tonight, but if it's got a weak battery, and with it being cold as it is, I got a feeling I'm not going to be able to start it when I leave. So no Volkswagen tonight, unfortunately. I'm going to have to get that battery tomorrow. But for those of you that are watching this video, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. I hope that you click that like button for me. I hope that you leave a comment down below. You know, tell me congratulations. Tell me that you're watching. I want to know who it is that's watching, so please leave a comment. And of course, subscribe. Pluck the little dingle belly down there next to the subscribe button. That way you get updates every time I upload a new video. If you'd like to email me, DuckmanCycles@duckshit.net. And of course, DuckmanCycles and VW Garage over on the Facebook group page. There'll be a discussion on what we've installed here, as well as anything else that I've currently been working on. So thank you guys very, 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 very much for sticking with me through this. Turned out to be a little bit more of a bear than I expected it to, but that's typical with most Volkswagen stuff, or any project cars for that matter. You take one thing apart, you find 10 more things wrong. Anyways, I really appreciate it. See you next time.